Taiwan is a prosperous country and is home to one of the most technologically advanced economies in the world. Just how did this small island nation transform itself into one of the most essential economies in the world? In this video, we will be analyzing Taiwan's economic history and analyzing how it transformed itself, as well as looking at its modern-day economy and future challenges it may face. The origins of modern-day Taiwan can be traced back to the outcome of the Chinese Civil War, which commenced in 1927. The nationalist forces faced off against the communists. This was a bloody civil war that lasted decades and resulted in millions of casualties. The Civil War ceased during World War II, but restarted after World War II concluded. The war ended in 1949 with the communists coming out victorious. The defeated nationalists fled to Taiwan, bringing with them millions of people, including soldiers, as well as members of the academic, government, and business elite, as well as the nation's gold reserves. Taiwan initially intended to serve as a temporary base before the nationalists devised a plan to reconquer mainland China. The nationalist government proclaimed Taiwan as the new temporary headquarters for the Republic of China, which is what mainland China was formerly known as when it was under nationalist rule. The recapturing of mainland China did not come to fruition for the nationalists, and they eventually embraced Taiwan as their new home. China and Taiwan took different paths in regards to economic and political development. However, the tensions and socio-economic implications that resulted from the Civil War are still prevalent to this day. Even after the Civil War, the government of Taiwan continued to claim it was the legitimate government of mainland China. This lasted until 1971, when the United Nations recognized the People's Republic of China, the communist faction which rules China to this day, as the only legitimate government of China. In order to do business with China today, a country must recognize that Taiwan is a part of China. Only 12 countries today recognize Taiwan as an independent nation. This has affected its economic development, as it has been excluded from various trade agreements with other countries. Although most of the world does not recognize it as an independent nation, the reality of the situation is more complicated. It has its own government, its own economy, trade relations, and military, all outside of China's control. For all intents and purposes, it functions as an independent nation. The issue of whether or not to reunite with mainland China remains highly controversial in Taiwan, and is also a prominent geopolitical issue which affects the world. Following World War II, Taiwan was in poor condition. Much of its infrastructure had been damaged during the war. The nation also suffered from hyperinflation. One of the goals of the new government was to ease inflation. The government launched a series of reforms to stabilize its currency and decrease inflation. In addition, they implemented land reform, seizing land from wealthy landowners and distributed it among the people. This served to significantly boost agricultural output across the nation. The government then focused on reforming the education system and modernizing its manufacturing industry. With the help of U.S. economic aid, these reform efforts helped to modernize its economy and served as a basis for the growth that was about to come. By the 1960s, Taiwan's cheap and abundant labor force made it attractive to many companies which set up manufacturing operations there. The country turned into an export-oriented economy as it became one of the largest exporters of consumer goods. In addition, in the 1970s, the government launched a major infrastructure investment project called the 10 Major Construction Projects, which served to upgrade its infrastructure. It invested heavily in critical infrastructure such as highways, airports, seaports, and power plants, thus modernizing the nation's infrastructure and significantly aiding in economic development. This period of time was unprecedented in Taiwanese history, as the nation underwent rapid economic growth and expansion. This period is referred to as the Taiwan Economic Miracle, alluding to the nation's swift economic development. During the 1980s, the nation underwent a period of economic liberalization. With the domestic cost of manufacturing rising, many Taiwanese companies moved operations elsewhere, such as China, as well as other nations throughout Southeast Asia. This did not help the nation's economy as it offshored many jobs overseas. The nation's economy continued to grow rapidly throughout the 80s, 90s, and well into the 2000s, albeit at a slower pace. Today, Taiwan is a highly developed, modernized nation. Like most wealthy countries, the services sector makes up the majority of the economy. However, its manufacturing sector plays a vital role and is the largest producer of arguably the most important piece of technology in the world, the semiconductor. Semiconductors are used in almost every piece of technology, such as computers, smartphones, televisions, cars, medical devices, among many others. Without semiconductors, our modern-day conveniences would not exist. Taiwan supplies over 60% of the world's semiconductors and over 90% of the world's advanced semiconductors. Although the US and China have made large investments recently in developing their own semiconductor manufacturing operations, both countries are still heavily reliant on Taiwan. China has made clear its belief that it has sovereignty over Taiwan and has exhibited its desire to take the nation by force. The United States has conveyed commitment to protecting the nation from Chinese aggression, dubbed the Silicon Shield. Semiconductors have been responsible for Taiwan's safety thus far, as both China and the US are still largely dependent on Taiwan semiconductors, and the US has protected the nation due to this reason. How the geopolitical situation will play out into the future is uncertain. However, its safety will likely continue to be enhanced if it can maintain its edge in the semiconductor industry. Despite the challenges it faces, Taiwan remains an extremely prosperous nation, and its citizens enjoy a high quality of life. The nation is very well developed and has a high quality education system, public transportation, infrastructure, and universal healthcare system. This small island nation went from an impoverished nation to one of the most high-tech economies the world has ever seen. Whatever challenges lay ahead, I'm certain it will overcome and continue to prosper. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing and check out my previous videos. Thank you and have a great day.